This is Dr. Barbara O'Neill, and today I want to speak directly to those of you who feel overwhelmed, confused, or quietly worried about your health, especially if you are over 55 and trying to do the right thing, but don't know who or what to trust anymore. You may be taking supplements every morning, swallowing pills you don't fully understand, drinking detox teas, or adding herbs because someone said they're good for you, yet deep down you still ask yourself, why don't I feel better? Why am I still tired, inflamed, bloated, foggy, or uncomfortable in my own body? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all is this: could I be doing too much instead of too little? Many people today are not suffering from a lack of information. They are suffering from too much of it. One expert says detox is essential. Another says it's dangerous. One article praises herbs as ancient wisdom. Another warns they can interfere with medications. Supplements are marketed as lifesavers, yet cupboards are filled with bottles that haven't changed how you feel. This creates a quiet anxiety, especially later in life, when the body no longer tolerates experimentation the way it once did. People begin to wonder whether their liver is overloaded, whether their kidneys are strained, whether their gut is confused, and whether natural always means safe. What makes this even more confusing is that the body gives mixed signals. A supplement helps one symptom but worsens another. An herb feels calming at first, then irritating later. A detox brings short-term relief followed by exhaustion. And so the question becomes unavoidable: how is the body actually meant to detox? What role do herbs truly play? And when do supplements support the body? And when do they simply add another burden? These are not casual questions. They matter more with age, because after midlife the body becomes less forgiving and more honest. It tells you quickly when something is not serving it. Today's discussion is not about promoting products or condemning them. It is about understanding principles, how the body was designed to cleanse itself, why confusion around detox exists, and why herbs and supplements must be approached with wisdom, restraint, and respect for the body's natural intelligence. Because health is not built by chasing every new remedy, it is built by understanding how the body works and then working with it instead of constantly trying to fix it. One of the most important truths that people forget or were never taught is that the human body was designed to detoxify itself. This is not a belief system, it is physiology. Every single day, the liver, kidneys, lungs, skin, bowels, and lymphatic system work together to neutralize and eliminate waste. When you were younger, this system worked quietly in the background, rarely asking for attention. But after midlife, many people begin to feel as though their body is not clearing things properly anymore, and that feeling is often accurate. Detoxification does not suddenly stop, but it does slow, and the reasons are very practical. Blood flow reduces, digestion weakens, breathing becomes shallower, movement decreases, and nutritional deficiencies accumulate over time. On top of this, modern life introduces far more toxins than the body was originally designed to handle: chemicals in food, water, air, medications, plastics, and even stress hormones that must also be cleared. What happens then is subtle but important. The body shifts from efficient detoxification to compensated detoxification. It still works, but with strain. This is why people can feel heavy, inflamed, foggy, itchy, or tired without having a diagnosed illness. The system is coping, not thriving. This is also where confusion begins, because when people sense this internal burden, They assume the solution must be aggressive, strong detoxes, intense cleanses, or large quantities of supplements, but the body does not respond well to force, especially later in life. Detoxification is not about flushing, it is about conversion and elimination step by step, and when any step is rushed or overloaded, symptoms appear. Understanding this changes the entire conversation, because it means the goal is not to detox harder, but to remove obstacles and provide support so the body can do what it already knows how to do. Herbs have been used for thousands of years, and that alone tells us something important. They work, but not in the way modern marketing often presents them. Herbs are not isolated chemicals designed to overpower the body. They are complex plants that interact gently with systems like digestion, circulation, liver function, and the nervous system. When used appropriately, herbs can support the body's natural processes, but when misunderstood, overused, or taken without context, they can quietly add stress instead of relief. This is especially true after 55, when the liver and kidneys are already processing medications, hormones, and metabolic waste. A common mistake people make is assuming that because something is natural, it can be taken endlessly or in large amounts. But the body does not recognize natural versus synthetic. It recognizes load. Every substance must be processed. Some herbs stimulate liver enzymes, some thin the blood, some affect blood pressure, and some alter hormone metabolism. When multiple herbs are combined or taken long-term without breaks, the body may become overwhelmed. This is why some people feel briefly better on herbs and then gradually worse. The issue is not the herb itself, but the lack of rhythm, rotation, and discernment. Herbs were traditionally used for specific purposes, for specific periods of time, and often alongside dietary and lifestyle changes. They were not meant to compensate for poor habits or be taken indefinitely without evaluation. When herbs are respected as tools rather than solutions, they can be helpful. When they are treated as fixes, they often disappoint. Wisdom lies in simplicity, fewer herbs, clearer purpose, and attention to how the body responds. Supplements occupy a unique and often confusing space in modern health culture. They promise precision, convenience, and control. The idea that you can target a deficiency, boost a system, or bypass dietary gaps with a capsule, and in some cases, supplements are genuinely helpful. But for many seniors, the supplement cabinet becomes crowded, not because health is improving, but because something still feels missing. What often goes unrecognized is that supplements, like herbs, must be absorbed, metabolized, and eliminated. They do not float harmlessly through the body. Minerals compete with each other for absorption. Fat-soluble vitamins accumulate. Synthetic forms may not behave the same way as food-based nutrients, and when digestion is weak, which is common after midlife, supplements may irritate the gut or burden the liver without delivering their intended benefit. This is why some people feel nauseated, wired, constipated, or fatigued after taking supplements, even though they are doing everything right. The body is not rejecting support. It is signaling overload. Another overlooked issue is that supplements are often used to compensate for lifestyle imbalances, poor sleep, chronic stress, lack of movement, or inadequate nutrition. No supplement can override these foundations. In fact, when foundations are weak, supplements often expose the weakness more clearly. The wisest approach is not to eliminate supplements entirely, but to reduce them to what is truly necessary, well tolerated, and appropriate for the individual. Fewer supply often produce better results than many taken indiscriminately. When you step back and look at detox, herbs, and supplements through a wider lens, a very different picture emerges, one that is far less frightening and far more empowering. The body is not failing, it is adapting. It is responding to load, rhythm, and support. Detoxification is not something you impose on the body. It is something you allow by removing interference and restoring balance. Herbs are not magic, but they are not meaningless either. They are subtle tools that work best when used with intention and restraint. Supplements are not shortcuts, but they can be helpful when used to complement, not replace, nourishment and lifestyle. What changes after midlife is not the body's capacity to heal, but its tolerance for excess. The margin for error becomes smaller, and the need for wisdom becomes greater. This is not a disadvantage, it is guidance. The body becomes more honest. It tells you quickly when something is helping and when something is adding burden. When you learn to listen to these signals instead of overriding them, health becomes less complicated. You stop chasing trends. You stop fearing toxins. You stop accumulating remedies. And you begin focusing on fundamentals: real food, clean water, gentle movement, deep breathing, regular elimination, quality sleep, and calm. From that foundation, detoxification flows naturally. Herbs and supplements, when used, take their proper place as support, not saviors. The greatest mistake people make is believing that health must be forced. The greatest truth is that the body heals best when it feels safe, nourished, and respected. Aging does not mean losing control over your health. It means refining how you care for it. When you replace fear with understanding and excess with simplicity, the body often responds with clarity, energy, and resilience. And that is not a promise, it is a pattern observed again and again when people stop trying to fix their bodies and start supporting them wisely. Here is one more final extended part written to flow naturally after the previous ending, single paragraph, senior, focused, calm authority. An ending on an uplifting, empowering note, exactly in the style you've been building. What becomes clear when all of this is placed together is that true health, especially later in life, is not about chasing perfection or eliminating every possible toxin, but about creating an internal environment where the body feels supported rather than pressured. Many people spend years jumping from one detox idea to another, adding herbs, removing foods, layering supplements, and yet never stopping to ask the most important question: is my body asking for more intervention, or is it asking for less interference? With age, the body's message becomes simpler, not more complex. It asks for regularity instead of extremes, nourishment instead of stimulation, and consistency instead of constant change. When detox is understood as a natural daily function rather than a dramatic event, fear begins to dissolve. You no longer feel the need to cleanse aggressively because you realize that every breath, every bowel movement, every night of sleep is already part of detoxification. When herbs are understood as gentle assistants rather than permanent companions, you stop stacking them endlessly and start using them with intention and respect. When supplements are viewed as tools rather than insurance policies, you become more selective, more observant, and more in tune with how your body responds. This shift in mindset alone often brings relief because confusion is stressful, and stress itself is a toxin the body must clear. Many seniors notice that when they simplify, their digestion improves, their sleep deepens, their energy stabilizes, and their minds feel clearer, even without adding anything new. This is not coincidence. It is the body responding to reduced load. Health does not improve because something magical was introduced, but because something unnecessary was removed. The nervous system calms, the liver works more efficiently, the gut absorbs better, and inflammation quietly settles. And perhaps the most reassuring truth of all is this: the body does not require you to get everything right to heal. It responds to direction, not perfection. Even small changes, drinking more water, breathing more deeply, walking gently each day, eating simpler meals, reducing unnecessary pills, can create momentum toward balance. Aging does not mean the body loses its intelligence. In many ways, it becomes more precise. It tells you quickly what helps and what harms, if you are willing to listen without panic. This is why wisdom becomes more important than willpower later in life. Instead of forcing outcomes, you observe patterns. Instead of reacting to symptoms, you ask what the body might be compensating for. Instead of overwhelming the system with support, you create space for it to do its work. Detox, herbs, and supplements, when placed in this context, lose their mystique and take their rightful place as secondary supports rather than central strategies. The foundation remains unchanged: clean inputs, efficient elimination, calm rhythms, and respect for the body's pace. When people embrace this approach, they often find that health feels less fragile and more stable. They regain trust in their bodies, and that trust itself becomes healing, because a body that feels trusted relaxes, and a relaxed body heals more efficiently. This is not about rejecting modern medicine or embracing tradition blindly. It is about discernment, knowing when to act, when to wait, and when to simply support what is already working. And that discernment grows with experience. The longer you live, the more your body teaches you what it needs, not loudly, but consistently. When you honor those signals, health becomes less of a struggle and more of a partnership. And that ultimately is the most hopeful message of all. Your body is not failing you as you age. It is guiding you toward a simpler, wiser way of caring for yourself, one that doesn't rely on fear, excess, or constant fixing, but on understanding, patience, and respect. And please do subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates about health.